It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast, your knowledge-based property podcast. That is what we are, and we do it 7 days a week from all corners of the Australian housing market. And you can hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon. Last day, look at that, Thursday, October the 31st. And if you are a real estate agent, well, this morning's guest and topic will be of interest to you. And if you're in another industry, a lot of what we're going to be covering and talking about is probably very transferable into other industries, as we catch up with Manos Findikakis, who is the CEO of Agents Agency. And a very good morning to you, Manos. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Thank you, Craig, and thanks for having us on the podcast. Looking forward to it.
Now, tell us a little bit about the Agents Agency. Is that a real estate company? What's going on?
Yes, we are a real estate company. We're actually a network of independent real estate agents. So unlike the traditional networks that you normally see around the traps, we're the first multi-brand real estate network in Australia. So we're all one network, but all our agencies, about 150 odd agencies across Australia, all trade independently. And the Agents Agency is their support services. So we provide all the administration and back-end essential services so they can run a profitable and fun business.
Wow. So just how deep is your membership base for that?
Yes, so we're currently sitting at about 148 agencies right across every state and territory in Australia. So we're a group of over 380 independent selling agents. The team is over 600 at the moment.
All right, so what we're going to talk about this morning is how you sort of define success. Now, you described the idea of a scoreboard in real estate careers. This is a good one, really, because it's very relatable, I think. So how did you develop this whole idea?
Well, I think if we look at the scoreboard and we call it the scoreboard principle, everything that we've ever done from the moment we're born, we give a meaning to measurements, from our birth weight to our height, to the time of day it is, to our estimated life expectancy. And of course, that flows through to business as well. Everything we do in business is around the metrics we look at and looking at our performance. So having a scoreboard to follow gives us that clarity in our business and whether we're achieving our targets and whether we're not achieving our targets. And because of it, we can make adjustments along the way to improve.
Now, you talk about the metrics, the KPIs, like average sales price, I guess, and days on market, just as a couple to throw in there. In your experience, which metrics are the most critical for real estate agents to focus on for long-term success?
I always say, if you think end in mind, reverse engineer so you can work out what you want to achieve and then, go backwards and say, well, where do I start to achieve my goal? So key performance indicators are those key metrics that revolve around our results. So, for example, a classic one for a real estate agent is how many people do they need to have an appraisal with, actually go into the lounge room to win business and secure a listing. So it's a really big one. So the average in Australia is 3.7 appraisals to one listing. So when you know that key metric, that key performance indicator, if you're going into approximately 4 homes, you should be walking out with one listing. That alone tells you if you're an agent going into 5 or 10 appraisals and only winning one, you're behind the 8 ball. And you can improve that and say, okay, where am I missing the opportunities? So is it my listing presentation? Is it the right type of clients I'm targeting? So those key performance indicators, when they're measured and you get a full understanding of what they represent, you can make adjustments in what you do to improve.
So even if you're not a real estate agent and you're listening to Manos this morning, you can sort of take some of what he's talking about and maybe start applying that in your own work environment. But there will be, Manos, people thinking about 2025. As I mentioned, the last day of October. and some people are going to be getting involved in the real estate industry. You would see this firsthand. You'd know about it in terms of some of those common mistakes, which is why I guess the scoreboard is such a good one for people to think about, just in terms of starting out. First few months, really, really critical to adopt all sorts of different ways to be successful.
If you're starting out in real estate as a real estate agent, and for that matter, any business, the first thing you need to evaluate is your market capacity. What is the capacity in your marketplace to actually generate sales and achieve your target? So knowledge is the fundamental in obviously starting. So for example, if you're an agent that wants to sell 24 homes in a year, what does that look like? So going back to what you previously mentioned in regards to average sale price, if the average sale price is $1 million, you know you'll be selling $24 million worth of property in a 12-month period. And then you reverse engineer that and say, okay, well, what's it going to take me to list 24 properties that I can sell? And then you reverse engineer that and say, well, what's it going to take for me to get into 4 doors, of which one of them are going to list their property with me? So in other words, how do I get into 96 doors to achieve my 24 sales? So when you're starting brand new, break it down to the numbers, because what gets measured, that's the scoreboard principle, gets done. And having that understanding, you can put all the tasks and all the activities in place to make sure you not only achieve your targets, but exceed them.
Hey, here's something to talk about, particularly if you're looking at a real estate career for next year. That is the word prospecting, because a lot of people go into real estate, and we know that the stat is terrible. Over 80% do not last in their first 12 months. In fact, a lot of them giving up after about 4 to 6 months. People can either do it or they can't. And you get the odd person that goes into real estate trying to sort of circumnavigate the whole way that real estate is transacted on. In other words, forgetting about the prospecting. And I would have to say, if you're not prepared to get out there, knock on doors, do the phone calls, you're probably looking down the barrel of failure.
100%, Craig. The fundamentals are the fundamentals, and it all starts and ends with prospecting. I call it the alpha and omega activity of a real estate agent, because if you learn how to prospect, you learn how to, inverted commas, hunt for business, then you can feed yourself for life. And it is the critical element that you've got to do the fundamentals. There's no bypassing that initial contact that you make. So, and in real estate, Craig, the biggest challenge real estate agents have is actually not lead generation. The biggest challenge they have is lead follow-up. See, most agents look for the low-hanging fruit. Where's my now vendor? They're not inclined for playing the long game. And I always say to team and to prospective agents, think long game. Always play the long game. Always learn the rules of the game and play better than anyone else. And in prospecting, it is playing the long game. It's meeting 10 people, nurturing those clients, not creating them clients for life, but have an engagement plan with them so that you stay top of mind. And that's what prospecting is about. It's not about finding the now sellers. It's about putting potential sellers on an engagement program that can potentially call you at a later stage when they're ready to sell.
Now, I've been involved in some conversations where somebody has said, well, I'm going to use social media. I don't believe that I have to sort of get out there and do the prospecting per se. I'm going to use social media. I'm going to use all sorts of different events that I can attend to. And my advice to them is, well, don't get involved in real estate if that's what you're going to do, because it probably won't work for you. Yes, there is a place for social media, but that is not the recipe for success. What do you say to that when somebody says social media will create opportunities?
I 100% agree with you, Craig. If you're thinking to start on social media, you're destined to fail. The fundamentals are the fundamentals, meeting what we call belly to belly, those face-to-face appointments that we need to connect with clients and build that relationship. Social media just adds another layer to what we call our omnipresence, and making sure that when it's like that RAS principle, the reticular activating system. So when people start thinking about a real estate agent, the best example is really to share is like if you start thinking about purchasing a car and you say, I'm going to purchase a red car. Suddenly, when a red Mazda, for example, the X5, whatever, as soon as you start driving, what do you notice? Red Mazdas everywhere because it's a reticular activating system. You start to be aware of something that's important to you. That's the same thing as a consumer. When they start thinking about selling their property, that's when they start taking notice of real estate agents. So it's the real estate agent's job to be omnipresent. So using social media is important for those moments that you can recall a potential client's memory towards you and to make an impact to say, oh, I remember that guy or that girl. But social media is secondary to the fundamentals always.
And just to wrap up, 2024, we're almost closing the year out. Tomorrow is the 1st of November. Had a successful 2024?
Yes, it's been an amazing 2024. And whilst there's been mixed media reports, the stability in the interest rate rises, Craig, has given confidence to both purchasers and to sellers that we're in a stable position of the marketplace. At the end of the day, it is all about affordability for buyers and obviously the RBA rates staying on hold. So it gives them confidence to be borrowing and, of course, confidence for the banks to be lending. I think we're in for a very, very strong 2025. So those, especially those in real estate as sales agents, those who are preparing themselves for a strong 2025, e.g. engaging with their current potential sellers in preparation for 2025 are going to do exceptionally well. And, with the talk of interest rate rises dropping early next year, I think it's a stable market. It's a great time to be purchasing and to be selling.
All right. Well, let's wind it up there on the positivity. Yes, 2025, it's going to be a big, tremendous year of real estate. One gets the feeling with all of those interest rate drops about to take place next year. Hey, great to catch up with you, Manos, and find out a little bit about your organisation and a little bit about the Scoreboard. Have yourself a great wind-up, November, December, and we might catch up with you next year.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much for having us on the show.
Every week, we present so much real estate. Powerful, up-to-date news every morning from 6 a.m. Know your property with us on the Real Estate Podcast.
Investors are very much looking towards Perth. They're looking towards the market that has, one of the tightest rental markets in Australia, is more affordable than the East Coast and has really good gross rental yields also.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? If you're an investor and you're looking at Adelaide and Perth, it's almost like a bit of a coin toss at the moment with the way these markets are travelling.
We definitely have a multi-speed market across Australia, and I think what we've got is, investors are shying away. Even Melbourne, so Melbourne's seen a change in land taxation, and that's had an impact on investor activity. Investors are driven by capital growth prospects, and, we're still expecting markets like Brisbane and Perth, and somewhat in Adelaide as well, to continue to rise. And, particularly Perth, investors have had their eye on Perth for a while.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.